psychologically healthy man is one who accepts the responsibility entailed in being a volitional being, who accepts the responsibility of thought, who accepts the responsibility of choice, who accepts and welcomes the responsibility of passing judgments. And that includes passing judgment on the issue of values, on the values and goals by which he is to live, that are going to guide his actions and his life. Now, it's possible for man, and indeed many men do, to revolt against the responsibility inherent in their own nature, to seek escape from the responsibility of volition, to evade the effort of thought, to prefer a state of mental fog, and to drift at the mercy of blind feelings. Confronted with the choice to initiate the mental effort needed to pursue knowledge, to focus his mind, to think or not to bother, the irrationalist characteristically chooses not to bother, particularly if crucial issues are at stake, because the risk is that much more terrifying, because he does not want his life or happiness to depend upon anything so fragile, as he sees it, as his own mind. Confronted with the choice to stand by the judgment of his mind or to act on feelings, wishes, or fears, which he knows to be irrational, he characteristically sticks by his feelings and defies his mind in validating its judgment. He gives in to fears which he knows to be irrational. And doing so again and again, he builds up in his mind this kind of precedent. Confronted with the choice between his own understanding and the assertions of others, he characteristically abandons his own understanding, finding it safer to pass the responsibility of judgment to others. This is one of the most widespread forms in which men can attempt to revolt against the requirements of their own nature. However, there is no escape from reality. There is no escape from man's nature and from the manner of survival that his nature requires. Every living species that possesses awareness can survive only by the guidance of its consciousness. That is the role and the function of consciousness in a living organism. Man can survive only by the guidance of his kind of consciousness, a consciousness that has to function volitionally, that has to focus, perceive, draw abstractions, gain knowledge, pass judgments, form values, decide what are the right goals to pursue in order to survive and to procure his well-being. If a man rejects this responsibility, if he decides that thinking is too much effort, that the perception of reality is not his concern, why then if he wants to survive, he can survive only by means of the perceptions and the judgments of others. If he does not choose to judge reality himself, the only choice open to him is to follow blindly the judgments of others. He knows that he does not know how to live, but others seem to know it. Others have survived and are surviving around him. So the only way to survive, he feels, is to follow their lead and to live by their knowledge. They know, and they will spare him the risk and the effort. They know, somehow they possess control of that mysterious, unknowable reality. Thus he is led to shape his soul in the image of a parasite inconceivable in any other living species. Not a parasite of body, but a parasite of consciousness. The approval of others is his only form of assurance that he is right, that he is doing well. The temporary diminution of his anxiety that their approval offers him is his substitute for self-esteem. It is this kind of fear which lies at the root of the process by which men can surrender the world to evil. Not a practical fear, That must be emphasized. Not a practical fear, not the response to a tangible threat. Something absolutely non-practical on the deepest level. Prompted by a degrading fear they dare not acknowledge and so cannot overcome, invent non-existent dangers or grossly exaggerate minor ones, betray their own minds, sell out whatever authentic rationality they possess, and acquire a vested interest in believing that men are unavoidably evil, that human existence is evil, that the good has no chance on earth. Such is the manner in which men deliver the world to evil. There's a marvelous line describing the psychology of a dictator in Galt's speech. Galt states, "They, other people, are his only means of perception, and like a blind man who depends on the sight of a dog, he feels he must leash them in order to live." And that's a marvelous characterization of the psychology of the dictator or the power seeker. This is the person who feels helpless in reality, feels helpless in the position of seeking, in effect, voluntary help or approval from others, and who, in order to feel secure, needs to control those other consciousnesses which he dreads. Because if he can force them to obey him, if they can be coerced to act as though his ideas were true, why, that for all practical purposes will make them true. How unreal is the universe in which he lives, that if they can be compelled to fake a reality for him, that's as close to reality as he will ever get. Motivation by fear and hate is not intellectual sovereignty. And in that sense, the power luster is marvelously described as a parasite of lunacy who seeks a distortion created by others, who is willing to have those others coerced, who is cheerfully willing to have articles praising him, eulogies praising him, songs and hymns written to him, prepared at gunpoint, and still he smiles and basks in it, and this gives him his sense of efficacy. He is able to control those other consciousnesses and thus to gain some sense of security. The root of all the human evils and ills which people exhibit is men's desire to escape from the responsibility of a volitional consciousness.